What is up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the happily hostile Dr. Disaster. And I remember thinking 5 years ago, when The Last of Us Part 2 originally released, that there was no way this could get any worse. Naughty Dog has made a game that split their own fan base about as bad as Star Wars ripped apart their own fan base. I remember watching the reaction to The Last of Us 2 and thinking, this is peak failure right here.
Wrong guess.
Would you like to go for double jeopardy where the scores can really change?
Well, it turns out that I hadn't reckoned with the TV show. It seems that a faithful TV adaptation of a shitty video game is bound to be pretty damn terrible. We still haven't gotten any updates on the viewership figures for The Last of Us Season 2. We are now 5 episodes in on a 7-episode season, and nobody in the press wants to talk about it. All we know for sure is that The Last of Us hasn't shown up on the Luminate Top 10 streaming list, and so far it hasn't shown up on Nielsen either. Nielsen runs a month behind, and they are just hitting the time period where The Last of Us would have been released, and it isn't showing up there. But the media isn't curious about how many people have watched or stopped watching this turd. All the gaming journalists want to do is throw a temper tantrum about this right here.
You have lost.
No.
Now, I want everyone who has spent time rightly pointing out the dreadful writing and ridiculous concepts of The Last of Us 2, I want all of you to take a bow and a victory lap, because you've earned it. Paul Tassi over on Forbes is crying now about how The Last of Us Season 2's so-called review bombing is now worse than the review bombing that they saw for the video game. As he notes, the score for the show has actually fallen off harder than the score for the game. They have managed to unite the gamers who were already aware that the second season for the show was going to suck, and the normies who were blindsided by Abby's hole-in-one and the terrible writing in general. But yeah, they have managed to unite gamers and normies in an epic takedown of Naughty Dog's nonsense.
You son of a bitch.
Oh, shit!
Alright, me hearties, make sure you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and also, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. The first part of the novel that I've written, a dark fantasy story called The Darkest Heritage, is now available in audiobook format for members only. The book itself will be ready to purchase on Amazon in the near future, but in the meantime, if you want to support alternatives to Naughty Dog, who clearly hates you for being normal, then consider becoming a member of the channel for as little as $5 a month. I assure you that I don't hate you. But anyhow, let's look at how poorly the show is being received compared to the game. First of all, I should illustrate the fact that instead of talking about this show's glorious viewership ratings, because we all know that everyone is watching this thing because the critics gave this a 95%, and of course, everyone trusts critics, but for some reason, instead of talking about the viewership figures, the media is all talking about review bombing. And I mean all of them are talking about it. It's ridiculous. Look here, this headline is from Push Square. Just like the game, The Last of Us 2's TV adaptation is getting review bombed. And this article comes from thegamer.com. The Last of Us fans must be getting deja vu as HBO Season 2 is being review bombed after its latest episode. And then Insider Gaming's headline says, The Last of Us Season 2 suffers from review bomb hit after latest episode. And then This Is Collider defending the show, saying, The Last of Us Season 2 review bombers relentlessly target Rotten Tomatoes audience score. The Gaming Bible headline says, The Last of Us Episode 4 is being review bombed by idiots. It just goes on and on. Clearly the NPCs in gaming journalism got their latest software patch and decided to run with it, and I can tell you why that is, because this is the only possible defense that they have for Naughty Dog at this point. The original Last of Us game was beloved, and the second one caused a revolt among gamers. The media insisted it was just a small chunk of horrible people, and they celebrated like crazy when Season 1 of The Last of Us TV show did really well. The story was exposed to a brand new audience, the normies who don't play games, but of course, that season depicted the first game, which we all loved as gamers, and the normies loved it too. But now, we're into the content of the second game, and shit is falling apart faster than a game of Simon with Joe Biden. And here's Paul Tassi on Forbes admitting that the review bombing is worse than what we saw with the game. And real quick, I just want to take issue with this term review bombing because obviously it is used so often it no longer has any real meaning, like the term racist or the term grifter or homophobic or anything like that. You use it too many times and it just doesn't mean a damn thing any longer. Now, review bombing is supposed to mean it's a bunch of fans leaving negative scores on a product for no good reason other than spite or political convenience. But these media clowns use this term constantly to the point that either there are zero legitimate complaints about modern entertainment or these people are full of shit. Obviously, it is the latter, and for this reason, I'd like to propose a new term, something along the lines of bombing reviews, meant to describe a scenario where journalists all get together and decide to review bomb legitimate reviews, discrediting them out of pure spite and or political convenience. But let's read what Tassi has to say in his article. He wrote here, The Last of Us Season 2 is now heading into the final half of its rather short 7-episode season, and things have been somewhat different this time around. The first season of the show was praised for embodying the game well outside of a few critiques, and critics and fans essentially agreed on its quality, a 96% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and an 87% audience score. Season 2, well, something's changed, and I can tell you what it is. The quality of the writing of the show. But you just won't accept that, will you? As you said, the show was praised for embodying the first game very well. Well, this second one is embodying the second game really well. I don't think too many people are actually refuting that. I think that most people understand that they are copying the second game very well in the second season, but that's the problem. But he continues on, as it stands, Season 2 has a nearly matched 95% critic score to Season 1, while the audience score has dropped a full 45% compared to Season 2 and is now down to 42%. And actually it's down to 41 at the time of this recording, but anyway. This is, ironically, something that mirrors what happened with the game, which received sky-high critic scores, a 93 Metacritic, and it went on to be one of the most awarded games of all time, contrasted with a 5.8 out of 10 user score. Now, the sinking of the show's second season has blown by even that low watermark, but the dude refuses to acknowledge that any of it is legitimate. This is the containment being put out by Naughty Dog and their PR handlers. All they can do at this point is be dismissive of complaints. They tried shutting down the Critical Drinkers video the other day, as we covered a few days ago, talking about the show, but that didn't work. It actually drew more attention in, predictably. Their best bet is to appeal to the idiots. the nodding ideologues who still read shit like Forbes with the thought that actually these people aren't constantly lying their asses off to all of us. Imagine an existence where you still aren't bright enough to acknowledge that the media are just bought and paid for protectors of their corporate masters. But sadly, there are some people that are like that, and that is what these headlines are all about. If they mention review bombing enough in the media, they figure that there are at least some people out there stupid enough to believe it's the reason the show is scoring poorly. Paul Tassi's article lists the complaints that people have mentioned, acting as if none of them have any real weight behind them, and once again, these people fail to mention anything about the viewership the show is getting, not even a question, wondering out loud why HBO isn't providing those numbers. They don't have any curiosity. No, instead, articles like this one are misdirection, meant to help the PR magicians so they can weave their deceptive, positive spin and try to get out of the mess the showrunners have made by following the story of the second game. But I'm gonna leave it there. Drop your mockery of game journalists and Naughty Dog into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.